My family are suing me for the rights to my baby for something they did, but they don't know what I have up my sleeve. My daughter Emma was 3 weeks old when my mother showed up at my apartment with a lawyer and custody papers. I was still recovering from the C-section, barely sleeping 4 hours a night, trying to figure out how to keep a tiny human alive. Mom walked right past me without asking, went straight to the nursery, and picked up Emma like she owned her. The lawyer introduced himself as Richard and handed me documents with my family's names listed as co-petitioners for parental rights. My mother, my father, my brother Kyle, and his wife Jennifer. All 4 of them were suing me for legal custody of my own child. I asked what this was about, and Mom just smiled while rocking Emma. "We have as much right to her as you do, sweetie. Maybe more, considering our contribution." She said it so casually, like discussing who paid for dinner. The documents mentioned genetic rights and prior agreements, but I'd never signed anything. I'd gotten pregnant after a night I barely remembered at Kyle's house during a family dinner 9 months ago. I'd felt sick afterward, went home early, woke up the next morning with gaps in my memory. 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant. My family had been strange about the whole pregnancy from the start. Too involved, too excited, too insistent on coming to every single doctor's appointment. They'd show up uninvited with baby supplies and furniture, rearranging my apartment while I was at work. Mom kept talking about how this baby was a family project, how we'd all raise her together. When I said I wanted to do this alone, my father got angry in a way I'd never seen before. "You don't understand what went into making this happen," he'd said. Really weird thing to say about a pregnancy. During labor, my mother actually tried to ban me from the delivery room, telling the nurses she was the primary guardian. The nurses looked confused and asked me directly, and I had to literally yell at my own mother to get out. She'd left, but not before saying, "This isn't over, you'll see." After the lawyer left, I started going through medical records from my pregnancy. The hospital had genetic testing results I'd never requested. Someone had ordered a full DNA panel on Emma right after she was born, comparing her genetics to my entire family. The results were marked urgent and sent to my mother's email address, not mine. I called my insurance company and found out my mother had been listed as my medical proxy without my knowledge. She'd authorized tests, received results, made decisions about my care during pregnancy. When I asked how this was possible, they said I'd signed consent forms back in March. But in March, I'd been at Kyle's house for that family dinner where I'd gotten sick. The next week, my brother Kyle came by with more papers. He explained they'd invested heavily in making Emma possible, that she wouldn't exist without their planning and resources. He kept using that word invested like I was some kind of business venture instead of his sister. I asked what he meant, and he just said I'd understand eventually, that the court would explain everything when they reviewed the biological evidence. Biological evidence of what? I started finding things hidden in my apartment. Medical bills I'd never seen for procedures I didn't remember having. Consent forms with my signature on them, but the handwriting looked wrong. Emails between my mother and a fertility clinic dated 8 months before Emma was born, discussing genetic matching and optimal timing windows. My sister-in-law Jennifer finally told me the truth after I cornered her at a coffee shop. She was crying, saying she'd tried to stop them, but my family had been planning this for over a year. They'd been so desperate for a baby with our family genetics after Jennifer had 3 miscarriages. She said they did something at that family dinner in March, something to me that I didn't consent to, something that made Emma's conception not entirely natural or consensual. She wouldn't say exactly what, just kept repeating, "I'm so sorry," over and over. I went home and tore apart every box my mother had brought over. In one, I found medical records showing Emma's DNA matched not just me, but showed specific genetic markers from my brother Kyle as well. Impossible, unless they'd somehow used his genetic material without telling me. That's when I understood everything. They'd orchestrated my pregnancy using family DNA from Kyle. Probably during that night I couldn't remember, and now they were suing for custody, claiming genetic parental rights because of what they'd done to me. But here's what they don't know. I've been recording every single conversation with them for 3 weeks. I have Jennifer's confession on video. I found the clinic's records proving they did this without my consent. And tomorrow morning, I'm not just fighting their custody case. I'm filing criminal charges against all 4 of them. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I'm sitting in Patricia Coleman's office at 7:45 a.m., my hands shaking as I place a USB drive on her desk. Emma is asleep in her carrier beside me, her tiny chest rising and falling in peaceful oblivion to the nightmare unfolding around her. Patricia, a sharp-eyed criminal attorney with steel gray hair and a reputation for destroying predators in court, reviews the evidence I've collected with methodical precision. "Let me understand this correctly," she says, her voice low and controlled. "Your family drugged you at a dinner 9 months ago, performed some kind of unauthorized fertility procedure using your brother's genetic material, and now they're suing for custody of the resulting child, your daughter, based on their contribution?" I nod, the words still feeling surreal even as I say them aloud. "Yes, and I have Jennifer's confession on video." Patricia clicks play on her computer, and Jennifer's tear-streaked face fills the screen. The coffee shop conversation I recorded yesterday plays out in high definition. "I didn't know how far they would go," Jennifer sobs on the recording. "They told me it was just going to be hormone injections to help you get pregnant naturally. But then your mother started talking about using Kyle's sample. I should have told you. I'm so sorry." Patricia pauses the video, her expression hardening. "This is beyond a custody case. This is criminal assault, medical fraud, and reproductive coercion at minimum." She makes notes on a yellow legal pad. "What else do you have?" I pull out my phone and play the recording from 3 days ago, my mother calling to check on Emma, but really trying to establish groundwork for their case. "You know, we only did what was necessary," Mom's voice says through the speaker. "The family needed an heir with our genetic line. After Jennifer's 3rd miscarriage, we had to explore other options. You should be thanking us for giving you Emma. Did you just admit to doing something to me without my consent?" I asked on the recording. "Don't be dramatic," Mom replied. "You were always going to be the vessel. We just helped nature along." Patricia's eyebrows shoot up. The vessel? Did she actually use that word? "Yes. They've been planning this for over a a year. They see me as nothing more than an incubator. My voice breaks, but I force myself to continue. I found these yesterday. I slide across copies of medical records I discovered hidden in boxes my mother had brought over fertility clinic, paperwork with forged signatures, receipts for medications I never consented to, and detailed notes about the procedure performed while I was unconscious at Kyle's house. I've also contacted the fertility clinic. I tell her. They claim they have consent forms with my signature, but I've never been there. I think someone at the clinic was working with my family. Patricia nods grimly. Medical fraud. We'll subpoena their records immediately. She taps her pen against the desk. What about the night at your brother's house? Do you have any proof of what happened? I've been piecing it together. They served dinner and wine. I remember feeling dizzy and excusing myself to lie down. The next thing I knew, I woke up at home the next morning with no memory of how I got there. I pull out more papers. I found these receipts in my mother's purse when she left it at my apartment last week. She bought sedatives the day before the dinner. Patricia takes the receipts, examining them carefully. This establishes premeditation. She looks up at me. Have you had any contact with your brother since discovering this? He came by 2 days ago with more custody paperwork. I recorded that too. I pull up another audio file on my phone. Kyle's voice fills the room. Look, we invested a lot in making this happen. The procedure wasn't cheap, and Dad pulled strings with his medical connections. Emma is partly mine, biologically speaking. You can't deny us access to her, so you're admitting you did something to me without my consent? I asked him. A pause on the recording then. It wasn't like that. We helped you become a mother. You should be grateful. Patricia stops the recording, her expression grim. This is damning. They've admitted to the procedure multiple times now. She pulls out a form. I want to file for an emergency protective order immediately, then prepare criminal charges. There's one more thing, I say, my voice steadier now. I've installed cameras in my apartment. My mother has a key she had made without my permission. They've been coming in when I'm not home, going through my things, even holding Emma when I'm out getting groceries. I think they're planning something. Patricia's eyes widen slightly. That's breaking and entering on top of everything else. She pulls out her phone and makes a quick call. We need to move quickly. I'm going to have someone come change your locks today, and I want you to stay with a friend they don't know about until the emergency hearing. Emma stirs in her carrier, making tiny snuffling noises. I reach down to adjust her blanket, a fierce protectiveness washing over me. What are the chances they could win? I ask, the question that's been haunting me since this began. Patricia looks me directly in the eyes. With the evidence you've collected? Almost none. What they've done is criminal. They violated your bodily autonomy, forged medical documents, and are now attempting to use their own criminal actions as justification for custody. She leans forward, but they're going to fight dirty. Your brother mentioned your past. Is there anything they might use against you? I hesitate. I was treated for depression after college. Nothing serious, just therapy and mild medication for 6 months, but they might try to spin it. She nods. They'll definitely try to use that, but medical records are private, and their actions are indefensible. She stands up. I'm filing these papers today. We'll request an emergency hearing for the protective order and simultaneously prepare criminal charges. As we finish our meeting, my phone buzzes with a text from Jennifer. They know I talked to you. Kyle is furious. Your parents are coming to your apartment this afternoon. They're saying they'll take Emma, one way or another. Please be careful. I show Patricia the text, my hands trembling. Change of plans, she says immediately. We're going to the police station right now. We'll file a report and get officers to meet us at your apartment. Then we'll get that emergency protective order processed today. She gathers the documents quickly. Don't worry about your things. We can arrange for someone to collect them later. As we leave her office with Emma still sleeping peacefully in her carrier, I feel something I haven't felt since this nightmare began. Hope. My family thought they could manipulate and control me, use me as nothing more than a vessel for their twisted plans. They thought I would be too weak, too shocked to fight back, but they severely underestimated what a mother will do to protect her child. One more thing, Patricia says as we reach her car. Those hidden cameras you installed, are they recording right now? I nod, pulling up the app on my phone. They're motion activated. I can see everything happening in real time. The screen shows my mother and father entering my apartment with a set of keys, moving purposefully toward Emma's nursery. Patricia's expression hardens. Perfect. Let's get the police there now. We've just caught them in the act. Patricia's prediction was right. They're fighting dirty. 3 days after catching my parents in my apartment, I'm sitting across from them at a conference table in Patricia's office. My father, dressed in his best suit like this is just another business meeting, slides a document across the polished wood surface. We're prepared to be reasonable, he says, his voice carrying that familiar authoritative tone he uses with difficult patients. $2 million in exchange for shared custody, generous visitation rights. We'll even cover Emma's college fund. Patricia picks up the document, scanning it with narrowed eyes while I adjust Emma against my shoulder. She's fussing today, as if she can sense the tension in the room. This isn't a negotiation, Patricia says coolly. Your clients drugged my client, performed a non-consensual medical procedure on her, and are now attempting to use their own criminal actions as grounds for custody. My mother scoffs, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on the table. We gave her a gift, a child, something she couldn't have managed on her own. Mom, I never said I wanted a child right now, I respond, my voice steadier than I expected. You made that decision for me, because we knew what was best, she snaps back. After Jennifer's failures, we needed a reliable vessel. Patricia's eyebrows shoot up at the word vessel, the same term captured in our recordings. Their lawyer, a nervous-looking man named Gregory, places a warning hand on my mother's arm, but she shakes it off. You weren't the first, you know, my mother continues, leaning forward. We tried with 2 of Kyle's previous girlfriends. They weren't as accommodating. The room goes silent. Even Gregory looks shocked. Are you saying you attempted this procedure on other women? Patricia asks, her pen poised above her notepad. My father shoots my mother a warning look, but she's too far gone in her righteousness to stop. They weren't family. They didn't understand the importance of continuing our bloodline. One of them even threatened to go to the police when she found out what we were planning. She waves her hand dismissively. Nothing came of it, of course. Who would believe such an outlandish story? Patricia is writing furiously. I'd like the names of these women. Absolutely not, my father interjects. This meeting is about reaching an agreement regarding Emma. This meeting, Patricia counters, is about documenting your client's admission to a pattern of criminal behavior. Emma starts crying in earnest now, and I stand up to walk her around the room, bouncing gently despite the pain still lingering from my C-section. As I pass the window, my phone buzzes. It's Jennifer. I forwarded all the emails to your lawyer. Password to the account is Kyle's birthday. They planned everything. I'm so sorry. I hand my phone to Patricia, who reads the message and gives me a slight nod. I think we need to take a short break, she announces. My client needs to attend to her daughter. In Patricia's private office, she pulls up the email account Jennifer sent. The password works Kyle's birthday. Of course, and what unfolds before us is horrifying. Hundreds of emails between my parents, Kyle, and several medical professionals detailing their plans. They discuss hormone treatments, fertility procedures, even the specific drugs they would use at the dinner to ensure I wouldn't remember. Subject: Plan B implementation. From Mom to Dad Kyle. We've secured the medication for dinner next Friday. The dosage should provide a 4 to 6 hour window where she'll be compliant but have no memory of the procedure. Doctor Winters has agreed to perform the implantation at the house. Kyle, make sure your sample is ready. This is our best chance now that Jennifer has failed again. Email after email documents their meticulous planning. They even discussed backup plans if I discovered what they'd done, including fabricating mental health concerns to challenge my fitness as a mother. When we return to the conference room, Patricia brings her laptop. We've received some additional evidence I'd like to discuss. She turns the screen toward their lawyer, showing the emails. Gregory's face pales as he scans the contents. I need to confer with my clients, he stammers, but Kyle has already seen enough. Where did you get those? He demands, standing up so abruptly his chair nearly topples. Jennifer gave those to you, didn't she? That bitch. Kyle, my father warns, but Kyle is beyond control now. You think you've won? He snarls at me. Everyone's going to know about your little breakdown in college, the suicide attempt, the psychiatric hold. Who do you think the courts will give Emma to once they know her mother is mentally unstable? Emma wails louder at his raised voice, and I instinctively turn away, shielding her tiny body with mine. That's enough, Patricia says sharply. Mr. Gregory, control your client or this meeting is over. Kyle, sit down, my father orders. We're handling this the wrong way, but Kyle is still standing, his face flushed with anger. That's my daughter, he says, pointing at Emma. Mine. I contributed the genetic material that created her. You were just the convenient incubator. Your contribution was obtained and used without consent, Patricia reminds him. That's reproductive assault, and it's a felony. My mother, who's been watching this exchange with calculating eyes, suddenly adopts a softer tone. Sweetheart, she says to me, we only wanted what was best for the family. For Emma, she deserves to know her real father. I am her real mother, I reply, my voice breaking slightly. And what you did was wrong. We have the DNA results, my father interjects, sliding another document across the table. Emma is genetically Kyle's child. That gives us rights. Patricia doesn't touch the paper. Actually, it gives you criminal liability. The fact that you have these results only proves you orchestrated this entire situation. We've filed for an emergency protective order, she continues, and we're pressing criminal charges against all 4 of you. The district attorney is very interested in your case. You wouldn't, my mother gasps. We're your family. Family doesn't drug you and violate your body, I say, finding strength I didn't know I had. Family doesn't try to steal your child. The door opens and Jennifer walks in, pale but determined. Kyle jumps to his feet again. You traitor, he shouts. After everything we've done for you. Jennifer flinches but holds her ground. I've given a full statement to the police, she says quietly. I can't be part of this anymore. My father's composure finally cracks. Jennifer, think about what you're doing. Your medical license is already at risk because I helped you, she finishes. I know, but I can't live with myself if I don't make this right. She turns to me. I've forwarded everything. The fertility clinic records, the payments, the conversations about drugging you. They've been planning this for over a year, ever since my last miscarriage. The room erupts into chaos. Kyle lunges toward Jennifer, but Gregory and my father restrain him. My mother is on her feet, shouting about family loyalty and ungrateful children. Through it all, Emma continues to cry, overwhelmed by the noise and tension. Patricia calmly picks up her phone and presses a button. Security, please. 2 officers enter the room. They've been waiting outside, I realize. Patricia had anticipated this reaction. These individuals were just leaving, she tells them. Please escort them out of the building. As they're led away, my mother turns back. This isn't over, she says, her voice eerily calm. Emma belongs with us. One way or another, we'll make sure she's raised properly. The threat hangs in the air even after they're gone. Jennifer stays behind, collapsing into a chair once they're out of sight. I'm so sorry, she whispers. I should have stopped them sooner. You're doing the right thing now, Patricia assures her. Your testimony will be crucial. I look down at Emma, who has finally quieted in my arms. Her tiny fingers wrap around my index finger, and in that moment, I make a silent promise to her. No matter what it takes, I will protect her from them. What happens now? I ask Patricia. Now we prepare for both battles, she says grimly. The custody case and the criminal charges. The DNA test results actually work in our favor. They prove what they did. Will they go to prison? Jennifer asks quietly. Patricia nods. With the evidence we have, almost certainly. Reproductive coercion, assault, conspiracy, medical fraud, the list is extensive. As I gather my things to leave, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. The court date is weeks away. A lot can happen before then. Emma should be with her real family. Sleep with one eye open. I show Patricia, who immediately calls her security contact. We need to move you to a safe house tonight, she says. Don't go back to your apartment. Looking down at Emma's peaceful face, I realize how much my world has changed in just a few days. I'm not just fighting for custody anymore. I'm fighting to keep us both safe from the people who were supposed to love us most. The courthouse is eerily quiet as we wait for the judge to enter. Emma is with a court-appointed caretaker in a separate room, a precaution Patricia Patricia insisted on after the kidnapping threat. I keep glancing at the door, my body physically aching to hold her. 3 hours is the longest we've been separated since her birth. Don't worry, Patricia whispers, arranging documents on the table. She's safe. Focus on what we need to accomplish here. Across the aisle, my family sits with their new attorney Gregory, apparently quit after seeing the evidence. Their replacement is a shark named Harrington with cold eyes and an impressive record defending wealthy clients against serious charges. My mother catches my eye and offers a thin smile that makes my skin crawl. The bailiff calls for us to rise as Judge Carmichael enters. She's a stern-looking woman in her 60s with a reputation for being meticulous and fair. Patricia told me this is good for us. The facts are on our side. Before we begin, Judge Carmichael says after we're seated, I want to make it clear that while this is a hearing for a protective order, the allegations in this case are extremely serious. I've reviewed the initial evidence and find it deeply disturbing. Harrington stands immediately. Your Honor, my clients vehemently deny any wrongdoing. This is a family dispute that's been grossly mischaracterized by— Save your opening for the appropriate time, Mr. Harrington, the judge interrupts. Miss Coleman, you may proceed. Patricia rises, her posture confident. Your Honor, we're seeking an immediate protective order against all 4 respondents based on clear evidence of reproductive coercion, assault, and ongoing threats to both my client and her infant daughter. She methodically lays out our case, presenting the recordings, emails, and medical records we've gathered. With each piece of evidence, I watch my family's expressions shift from confidence to concern. Most damning, Patricia continues, is the testimony of our expert witness, Dr. Eliza Morales, who has reviewed the medical evidence. Dr. Morales takes the stand, a renowned reproductive endocrinologist Patricia found, who specializes in fertility ethics cases. She explains in clinical detail what the evidence suggests happened that night at Kyle's house. Based on the medical records, my professional opinion is that the respondents administered a combination of benzodiazepines and other sedatives to render the petitioner compliant but amnesic. Dr. Morales testifies, the timing and hormone levels in subsequent blood work are consistent with an embryo transfer procedure performed without proper medical protocols or consent. And how dangerous is such a procedure when performed outside a clinical setting? Patricia asks. Extremely. Without proper sterile conditions, monitoring, and follow-up care. The risks include infection, hemorrhage, and potentially fatal complications. Whoever performed this procedure showed reckless disregard for the petitioner's health and safety. My father shifts uncomfortably in his seat. As a doctor himself, he knows exactly how dangerous what they did was. When Harrington cross-examines Dr. Morales, he tries to suggest alternative explanations, but she remains unshakable. There is no medical scenario that explains these records, other than a covert fertility procedure. Jennifer testifies next, her voice trembling as she details the family's planning. They started discussing it after my 3rd miscarriage, she explains. At first, they talked about finding a surrogate, but Kyle's parents wanted to keep it in the family. They said she would be easier to control than a stranger. And you participated in these discussions? Patricia asks. Jennifer nods, tears streaming down her face. I objected at first, but they wore me down. They said it was the only way to continue the family line, that Kyle deserved a child with his genetics. When I finally threatened to go to the police, they reminded me that I was present for some of the planning meetings. They said I was already complicit. When it's my turn to testify, I feel surprisingly calm. I describe waking up the morning after the dinner, the strange soreness, the gaps in my memory. I explain how my pregnancy was a shock, how the family's behavior grew increasingly controlling, culminating in their attempt to ban me from my own delivery room. They listed my mother as my medical proxy without my knowledge. I tell the judge. They ordered genetic testing on Emma without my consent. When the results confirmed Kyle was the biological father, they filed for custody. Harrington's cross-examination is brutal. He brings up my college depression, suggesting I'm mentally unstable and imagining conspiracy theories. He implies I knew about the procedure all along, but changed my mind about sharing custody. Isn't it true, he asks, that you've always been jealous of your brother's success? That this is an elaborate attempt to extort money from your family? Objection, Patricia calls, argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence. Sustained, Judge Carmichael says sharply. When my family testifies, their strategy becomes clear. They're claiming I consented to everything. We discussed helping her have a baby for months, my mother says with practiced sincerity. She was getting older, worried about her biological clock. We offered Kyle as a donor, and she agreed. And the dinner at Kyle's house? Harrington asks. A celebration of her decision, my father adds smoothly. She had some wine, felt unwell, and went home early. Any medication in her system was something she took herself. Kyle's testimony is even more outrageous. We had an understanding, he claims. I would provide the genetic material and we would co-parent. She changed her mind after Emma was born and tried to cut us out completely. I grip the table so hard my knuckles turn white, fighting the urge to scream at their lies. The turning point comes when Patricia plays the video from my hidden cameras. My parents entering my apartment without permission. My mother holding Emma while whispering, "Soon you'll be with your real family." My father searching through my medical documents. And this final recording, Patricia says, was taken 3 days ago during our settlement meeting. The courtroom falls silent as Kyle's voice fills the room. That's my daughter. Mine. I contributed the genetic material that created her. You were just the convenient incubator. Judge Carmichael's expression hardens. After a brief recess, she returns with her decision. Based on the overwhelming evidence presented today, I am granting the emergency protective order against all 4 respondents. They are to remain at least 500 feet from the petitioner and her child at all times. Additionally, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. She looks directly at my family. The evidence suggests a disturbing pattern of reproductive coercion and assault that this court cannot ignore. Pending criminal proceedings, all visitation requests are denied. Relief washes over me, but it's short-lived. As we leave the courtroom, Patricia receives a frantic call call from the court childcare center. What do you mean she's gone? Patricia demands, her face paling. I don't hear the rest because I'm already running, my heart pounding so hard I can barely breathe. The childcare room is chaotic when we arrive, security guards interviewing staff, a young caretaker sobbing in the corner. What happened? I demand, grabbing the nearest security officer. Where is my daughter? A woman claiming to be the child's grandmother showed documentation authorizing her to take the baby for a medical appointment, he explains. The paperwork looked legitimate. We only realized something was wrong when the real court-appointed caretaker returned from her break. Patricia is already on the phone with police, reporting the kidnapping. The respondent was in court with us when this happened. She's saying she must have had someone else do this. Check security cameras immediately. The next hour is a blur of police questions, security footage reviews, and mounting panic. The cameras show my mother texting repeatedly during the hearing. Someone, a woman we don't recognize, presented forged documents to the childcare center and walked out with Emma just minutes before the judge announced her decision. She knew she was going to lose. I whisper, the realization hitting me. She had this planned all along. The police issue an Amber Alert for Emma. Officers are dispatched to my parents' house, Kyle's home, and several other properties owned by the family. Patricia stays by my side, her usual composure cracking slightly as she works the phones, coordinating with law enforcement. 3 excruciating hours later, my phone rings with an unknown number. We have Emma, my mother's voice says calmly. She's perfectly fine. We're simply protecting her from your instability. Mom, please, I beg, signaling frantically to Patricia, who immediately starts recording the call. You're making this so much worse. Bring her back. We'll discuss terms once you've calmed down, she replies. Family court won't separate a child from her biological father. You know that. The judge just granted a protective order, I remind her, trying to keep her talking while Patricia shows me a note. Police tracing call. You're breaking the law. Laws can be changed. Money opens doors. Your father and I have connections you couldn't imagine. Her voice hardens. Drop the criminal charges, agree to joint custody, and we can resolve this amicably. The call ends abruptly. Patricia immediately relays the information to the police detective who has just arrived. They've confirmed the call came from a burner phone, but they triangulated the general location to a hotel near the state border, she tells me. They're sending units there now. I pace the room, unable to sit still. Emma needs to eat soon. She has a specific formula for her sensitive stomach. Does my mother even know that? What if she's crying? What if they're already crossing state lines? The detective's radio crackles with updates. Officers have surrounded the hotel. They've identified a room registered to one of my father's colleagues. SWAT teams are taking position. We'll get her back, Patricia promises, but I can hear the tension in her voice. This has escalated beyond anything we anticipated. Another hour passes before the detective's radio comes alive again. Suspect in custody. Infant recovered safely. Repeat. Infant recovered safely. My knees buckle with relief. The detective drives us to the hotel, where police cars and an ambulance crowd the parking lot. An officer escorts us through the chaos to the ambulance where a paramedic is examining Emma. The moment I see her, something breaks inside me. I rush forward, gathering her tiny body against my chest, sobbing so hard I can barely breathe. She's wearing different clothes, something pink and frilly I've never seen before, but she's unharmed, blinking up at me with those innocent eyes. She's perfectly healthy, the paramedic assures me. They had appropriate supplies for her care. Across the parking lot, I see my mother being placed in a police car, her hands cuffed behind her back. She looks directly at me, her expression not of remorse, but of righteous indignation. Even now, she believes she was justified. The others weren't here, the detective explains. Just your mother and a nurse she apparently hired to help with the baby. We're tracking down your father and brother now. That night, in a hotel room secured by the police with an officer stationed outside our door, I hold Emma close and promise her that no one will ever take her from me again. Patricia has already filed emergency motions to revoke any possibility of visitation or contact. The kidnapping changes everything, she tells me over the phone. No judge will grant them access after this, and the criminal charges just became much more serious. As Emma finally drifts to sleep in my arms, I allow myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the worst is behind us. But I know my family too well to think they'll surrender easily. This is just the beginning of a longer battle, one I'm determined to win, no matter what it takes. I step into the courtroom for the final time, clutching Emma close to my chest. She's 6 months old now, a far cry from the tiny 3-week-old I was desperately protecting when this nightmare began. Her weight against me is reassuring, solid proof that we've survived the worst my family could throw at us. You ready for this? Patricia asks, her hand steady on my shoulder. The last 6 months have transformed our relationship from attorney-client to something closer to friends who've weathered a war together. As ready as I'll ever be, I reply, bouncing Emma gently as she babbles and reaches for Patricia's necklace. I just want it to be over. Today is sentencing day. After months of legal battles, emergency hearings, and a 2-week criminal trial that made national headlines, we're finally here for the conclusion. The jury took less than 4 hours to return guilty verdicts against my mother, father, and Kyle. The courtroom is packed with reporters and law students. Our case has apparently become required reading in medical ethics classes across the country. I keep my eyes forward, avoiding the curious stares. Everyone wants to see the woman whose family drugged her and performed an unauthorized fertility procedure just to continue their genetic line. Jennifer sits on our side of the courtroom today. After providing key testimony against my family in exchange for immunity, she's become something of an ally, though I'm not sure I'll ever fully trust her again. She catches my eye and offers a hesitant smile. All rise, the bailiff calls as Judge Carmichael enters. The proceedings begin with victim impact statements. Patricia squeezes my hand as I pass Emma to the court-appointed support person and approach the podium. My prepared statement sits before me, but I find myself setting it aside. Your Honor, I begin, my voice steadier than I expected. When I discovered I was pregnant, I was confused and scared. When I realized what my family had done to me, I was horrified. But when I held Emma for the first time, I knew I would do anything to protect her. I looked directly at my mother mother, father, and Kyle, sitting with their attorneys. My father stares at his hands. My mother's expression remains defiant. Kyle won't meet my eyes. What they did wasn't about love or family. It was about control. They violated my body, my autonomy, and my trust in the most fundamental way possible. They drugged me, performed a medical procedure without my consent, then tried to steal my child when I refused to give them what they wanted. I take a deep breath. But the most terrifying part wasn't what they did. It was their complete conviction that they were entitled to do it. Even now, I don't believe they understand the gravity of their actions. They've never once apologized. They still believe they had the right to use my body as a vessel for their plans. Judge Carmichael nods for me to continue. I'm not asking for vengeance. I'm asking for protection for myself, for Emma, and for any other women they might target in the future. Jennifer testified that I wasn't their first attempt. How many others were there? How many more would there have been if they hadn't been stopped? I finish my statement and return to my seat, taking Emma back in my arms. She immediately grabs a fistful of my hair, completely oblivious to the weight of the moment. Her innocence in all this is the one pure thing I cling to. When it's the defendant's turn to speak, my mother stands first. Her voice is controlled, her posture perfect as always. I only wanted what was best for our family, she says, as if explaining something simple to a child. Everything I did was out of love. My son deserved a child. Our family name deserved to continue. We gave my daughter a gift, a beautiful child she wouldn't have had otherwise. I feel Patricia tense beside me. Judge Carmichael's expression remains impassive, but her eyes harden. My father speaks next, his medical authority evident in every carefully chosen word. Your Honor, as a physician with 30 years of experience, I ensured the procedure was performed with the utmost care and safety. There was never any danger to my daughter. We simply helped nature along. Kyle's statement is brief, almost rehearsed. I love my daughter, he says, glancing toward Emma. Everything I did was to create a family. I never meant any harm. Judge Carmichael takes a moment before delivering her sentence, reviewing her notes with deliberate care. In my 30 years on the bench, she finally says, I have rarely encountered a case that so fundamentally violates the principles of bodily autonomy and consent. The defendants not only committed serious crimes, they did so with complete conviction of their entitlement to control another human being's reproductive choices. She looks at each of my family members in turn. Dr. James Peterson, you have violated the most sacred oath of your profession to do no harm. You used your medical knowledge and connections to facilitate a non-consensual procedure on your own daughter. The court sentences you to 15 years in state prison for assault, conspiracy, and medical fraud. My father's face goes ashen as the reality hits him. Catherine Peterson, as the primary architect of this plan, you have demonstrated a disturbing lack of remorse or understanding of the gravity of your actions. The kidnapping of an infant alone warrants significant punishment. The court sentences you to 18 years for assault, conspiracy, and kidnapping. My mother's perfect posture finally breaks as she slumps slightly in her chair. Kyle Peterson, you participated willingly in this violation, viewing your sister as nothing more than a means to your own genetic legacy. The court sentences you to 12 years for assault and conspiracy. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. These sentences are harsh, even by the standards Patricia had prepared me for. As the bailiffs approach to take my family into custody, my mother turns to look at me one last time. She's still his daughter, she calls out, her voice carrying across the courtroom. Nothing will change that. Order, Judge Carmichael commands, banging her gavel. Remove the defendants. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowd around us, shouting questions about the verdict and sentences. Patricia shields me as we make our way to her car, Emma tucked safely against my chest. It's over, she says once we're inside. They can appeal, but with the evidence we had, it won't change anything. They're going to prison for a very long time. I nod, relief washing over me in waves. What about the medical board? The clinic? The state medical board revoked your father's license yesterday, Patricia confirms. The fertility clinic is under investigation, and the doctor who performed the procedure has already surrendered his license. There will likely be civil penalties as well. 2 weeks later, I stand in my empty apartment, the last boxes packed and ready for the moving truck. Emma sleeps peacefully in her carrier, unaware that we're leaving the only home she's known. Jennifer arrives to say goodbye, looking smaller somehow without Kyle's domineering presence. I brought this for Emma, she says, handing me a small package. Inside is a silver bracelet, delicate and simple. It was my grandmother's. I thought, well, she is family, in a way. I hesitate before accepting it. Thank you for everything you did to help us. I should have stopped them sooner, she says, the familiar guilt clouding her eyes. I knew what they were planning for months before that dinner, but you did stop them, eventually, I remind her. Your testimony is the reason they're in prison. She nods, then looks around the apartment. Where will you go? West Coast, I tell her, deliberately vague. The restraining orders are in place, but I've learned not to trust legal protections alone. Fresh start for both of us. Jennifer understands my caution. I'm moving too, back to my parents in Ohio. I've applied to nursing programs there. We say our goodbyes with an awkward hug, two women forever connected by trauma neither of us deserved. 3 days later, Emma and I arrive in Seattle, where rain washes the city clean and nobody knows our story. Our new apartment overlooks a small park where children play on swings and slides. In a few years, Emma will join them, growing up without the shadow of my family's obsession. Patricia calls weekly to check on us and update me on legal matters. The civil suit against the fertility clinic has been settled for a substantial sum that will ensure Emma's future education. My family's appeals have been denied. Jennifer has started nursing school and is seeing a therapist to process her role in everything that happened. Sometimes at night, when Emma is asleep and the apartment is quiet, I still find myself checking the locks twice, installing new security cameras, jumping at unexpected sounds. The therapist I've started seeing says this hypervigilance is normal after what I've experienced, that it will fade with time. On Emma's first birthday, we celebrate with a small cupcake and a single candle. She smashes the frosting with delight, giggling as I take pictures to document this milestone. There's no family gathered around singing, no grandparents bearing expensive gifts, no uncle claiming genetic ownership. Instead, there's just us mothers mother and daughter, building a life free from the toxic legacy my family tried to impose. As Emma falls asleep that night, her tiny hand wrapped around my finger, I make her the same promise I made in Patricia's office all those months ago. No one will ever use you as a pawn again, I whisper. You are not an investment or a vessel or a genetic legacy. You are Emma, and you belong to yourself. In the morning, we'll go to the park and feed the ducks. We'll stop for coffee, for me, and a cookie for her at the local cafe where the baristas know our names. We'll build a community of chosen family who love us for who we are, not what genetic material we carry. My phone buzzes with a text from Patricia. Just heard Kyle's appeal was officially denied. It's really over now. I look at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her crib, and type back, we're finally free. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I truly believe it.